Welcome back to the OSM channel. In today's video I'd like to give you a tour of my low budget garden. Now what got me into gardening? Well, growing up I grew up on a hobby farm. We had, the farm animals, and we did a lot of gardening. We'd always start everything from seed in the seed trays, watch them grow, care for them, and then eventually transplant them outside when the temperatures were right, and then we cared for them throughout the season, and when they reached their maturity date we would harvest whatever fruit or vegetables that the plants were bearing, and it was a very enjoyable thing to do, and it's something that I continue on with my daughter to this day. It's great getting the kids away from the technology and just bringing them outside into the real world, and there's a lot of value in growing your own food as well. Something that has changed as I've grown and matured is I've become very aware of what these big manufacturers are putting into our food nowadays. I picked up a jar of pickles maybe last year, and I was looking at the label. It had yellow food dye, it had corn syrup, and all these other preservatives that I had no idea what they were. They were high risk. I don't want to be consuming that crap. I don't want my daughter consuming that crap. So growing your own produce and getting into canning allows you to have total control over the food you consume. So you don't have to have a lot of space, you don't have to have a lot of money, but you got to start somewhere. So without further ado, I'm going to open the gate and I'll show you what I'm growing here. As I open up this gate to the garden, you're going to find that there's all types of budget-friendly or free materials used in this garden. For example, fencing, free pallets. As for this netting, this is 6-inch nylon trellis netting. You can get a 325-foot-ish roll of that stuff for about $30. Now, it won't keep out the small critters, but it keeps out the deer, and in my area, the deer do most of the damage. If you look straight ahead, that's my little strawberry patch right there. The netting for that's old recycled wire shelf that came out of a house that was being renovated, and it works pretty well for keeping the woodchucks and the gophers out of there. For the main area of the garden here, I've constructed these raised concrete garden panels, and I like raised garden beds because it helps to keep the soil loose and draining well, and not to mention it's easier to work on whatever it is you're growing. I chose concrete over a galvanized steel because the thing I don't like about galvanized steel or pressure treated wood is both of them leach chemicals into the soil, and I felt like with concrete that was a better option. As for the soil, where do I get my soil from? Well, I do a lot of composting. I collect leaves, yard waste, and every year I'll dump it into a new dump spot, and I'll try and turn that pile over throughout the year. And as it breaks down, it turns into this really rich black soil. It takes about 4 or 5 years, but that's really what I use for my garden beds. Now, the thing about yard waste is as it breaks down, it draws nitrogen out of the soil, so you do not want to be throwing yard waste into your raised garden beds. If you have really tall beds, you can place it on the very bottom and then put your gardening soil on top of that, so as that breaks down, it's not really drawn from the upper part of the soil, but that's just something to be aware of. Something I've done this year that I haven't done in past years is I've added pine shavings that I made myself with my chainsaw. And my chainsaw, for bar oil, I use canola oil, so that way I'm not adding any toxic chemicals to my gardening soil. But I added these pine shavings in between the rows in the beds. It helps to keep the beds cooler, but more importantly it helps to retain the moisture in the soil, and I found that it's been really effective and things are growing really well this year. So I do have a bird bath here. I like seeing birds, especially in the wintertime, but really the bird bath is more here for the pollinators. So when you're doing a lot of gardening, it's a really smart idea to have some flowers throughout the garden to encourage those bees and pollinators to come into the garden. And if you provide a water source for them as well, that just further encourages them to come in and pollinate your garden. So I guess we'll start with the tour over here. Final thing I want to say before we start going down the rows here, this is the first year that I've used all organic seeds in the garden, and for the most part the organic seeds have not performed well. Their germination rate is subpar and their crop performance is not fantastic. So next year we're going back to non-organic seeds, and we're probably going to stick with burpees because I've had really good luck with burpees in the past. So starting out from left to right, all lettuces, Black Simpson, gourmet lettuce. This is really interesting right here. This is cinnamon basil, and I haven't figured out what to do with it aside from throwing it in cocktails. To the right of the cinnamon basil, kale, blue leaf kale, I believe, more lettuce, cabbage, broccoli. Broccoli is not doing great this year. Always have had an issue with broccoli in the past. The leaves aren't getting eaten up that bad, but they're just not performing like they should. To the right of the broccoli, we have basil. Basil is doing very well. And behind the basil, we have dill and cilantro. So in the back section over here, this is a homemade trellis. A couple of old pressure-treated 2x4s to create kind of like, I guess, A-frames. And then the top joists, I guess you would call them, are just dead trees from around the property. And I do have to replace these every probably 3 or 4 years. You know, they eventually weaken, but they stay good for at least a few seasons. But on the left here, we have tomatoes. There's some cherry tomatoes as well as large tomatoes back there. Moving to the right, cucumbers. Have 4 rows of cucumbers, and we are making our own pickles. I think I'm going to do a video showing you how I make my own homemade water bath pickles. They're very easy to make and they're very good, and they last for about a year without any artificial preservatives aside from salt. An issue I have had with those cucumbers in the past is I've had issues with powdery mildew killing off the plants, and what I've started using is neem oil on the leaves. I buy it in concentrated form and dilute it down in this spray bottle, and I've been spraying the leaves of my cucumbers, pumpkins, gourds, zucchini, maybe every week and a half, and that's been doing an excellent job at keeping the powdery mildew away. Now the thing with neem oil, it's an organic oil, but there's some controversy with it. Some people, well, I guess it can be a toxin if ingested in large quantities, but you know, you dilute it down, you spray it on some of the leaves. It's kind of what you have to do if you want to keep that stuff alive. So it is what it is, you know. Moving to the right, these are all string beans. I do have 2 different varieties here. Now I forget what I have planted here, but there are 2 varieties of beans here. One of them stays low to the ground and it's producing pretty well, but the second variety I planted, it climbs up this string like crazy, like wildfire. But the issue with the stuff that's grown straight up is it's not flowering, it's not producing any string beans, so we'll have to stay away from that next year. I have a list of everything I planted somewhere, just can't find it right now. Moving forward, eggplant. Which eggplant I've not been able to produce any eggplant in past years because the bugs generally attack it. Whatever it is, but again, this year I'm using that neem oil, and you can see this eggplant plant looks quite healthy. So I'm thinking that neem oil is a thing to use. I have tried using, cast iron soap in the past. Dilute that down and then use some essential oils, but it just doesn't seem to be near as effective as neem oil. And right behind the eggplant, we have all our peppers. So up towards the front is hot pepper. It's actually a mild jalapeno I'm trying this year. I tried regular jalapenos in the past, but they seem to be too hot. What I'd love to do is pickle those mild jalapenos. Same thing I do with the pickles, because we do go through a lot of jalapenos here, but we prefer mild jalapenos. Behind the jalapenos, I believe these are mixed color peppers, probably a lot of red and yellow. I grew a ton of green peppers last year, but of course the wife doesn't like green peppers for whatever reason, so we switched over to colorful peppers. In the center of the garden here, we have a strawberry patch, and again, this is, you know, recycled wire shelving from a renovation or something. I forget where I got these exactly. But the nice thing about them, you just take off one side. You can get in here, you can pull weeds out, pick your strawberries. Which strawberries, they seem to take a few years to really produce fruit, unless you really fertilize the soil well. You know, these strawberries are 2 or 3 years old now, and they're starting to produce very well. Maybe I didn't have the soil amended properly, but as for weeding, I do weed by hand, and what I do with the weeds is I take these and I put these into a pile in the garden, and then periodically I'll put soil on top of the weeds to allow these to break down and turn back into soil. Why take them out of the garden and waste this precious organic material? Besides, worms love to chew on this stuff, and worms are really good for the garden because they help keep things loose and help maintain balance. So here's the string beans. If I turn the camera to the right, you can see the garden expansion area, and I've been working on this for the past 2 years, and You know, every year you say you want to expand the garden a little bit more, but I think this is about the limit for me. So 2 years ago, I flattened this area out, pulled the brush out of here, laid down this landscaping fabric, burned holes in every 2 feet. And this is kind of like the pumpkin and gourd area, and you can see everything looks really healthy this year. That neem oil is doing a phenomenal job at keeping that powdery mildew at bay. You know, there's a little bit of shade here in the mornings. Just everything looks really healthy. Something I added this spring was these smaller raised garden beds, and these are pallet fences. Heat treated wood, not pressure treated, so you know there's no chemicals in here. You can see that there are galvanized hinges on the corners, but it doesn't really contact the soil. You know, these will probably rot after 7 or 8 years, but I got these for free, and you can't beat free. So moving down the line here, we have sunflowers. To the right, we have carrots. The carrots aren't doing great this year, but we still will have some carrots. Here's cucumber overflow box number 1. Well, there's only one, but I have a little bamboo trellis going there, you know, nothing fancy. And as for those other 4 boxes, I just replanted a second crop of cilantro and dill in this box. This is kind of a compost box, but the bear got in there the other day, so I think we're gonna stop doing that. And then the 2 end boxes down there, well, those are potatoes. Something else you may notice throughout the garden, I have these plastic potting plants filled with marigolds. The bright colors help to draw the pollinators in. And I believe I also read a while back that the marigolds also help to keep bugs at bay. Here's another garden extension area. I've done some videos on this in the past, moved some very large rocks out of here, but this is something I just kind of formed into a little pumpkin patch over here. Nothing special. Found these big rocks in the woods. You know, they weigh a few hundred pounds each, but I moved them with my jib crane trailer and the winch, and I stacked them into the line-up steps. So every time you want to walk up here, you know, the elevation change from here to here is about 8-9 feet. So walking up these steps makes it a lot easier to access this area of the garden. But the other thing I want to share with you real quick is my irrigation system, which I have done videos on this in the past. If you look up in the woods there, it's a big 275 gallon IBC tote, and that is a rainwater collection tank. Now, a question you may be asking yourself is, well, how do you collect rainwater with it being so far away from the house, and how does that feed the garden? Well, let me show you. So off the 2nd story gutter, I've installed a rainwater diverter valve. Now the level of that valve is about level with the top of that tank. You see there's a garden hose that feeds out of that rainwater diverter valve. Okay, so off that diverter valve comes this garden hose. Now there's a T, and then the garden hose goes up the hill to the holding tank. The T is for this manifold and filter. But how this works normally, when it's raining, water flows into that diverter valve, down this garden hose, up this garden hose, and up into that holding tank. Now, you got to remember the holding tank is about level with that diverter valve. Now, how does that work? Well, back in the day, before you had laser levels, people used water levels. You know, you'd have a tube with water in the tube, and you could have, you know, a 60-foot span, and that water would naturally level out at very great distances. That's actually how they built the foundations of the pyramids. They dug out trenches, laid water down, and the water created a perfectly level line for them to chip rock away or whatever they were doing. So that's how that water feeds up into that tank, even though it's about 80 feet away from the house. Now the cool thing about that tank is it's about 20 feet higher in elevation than where the garden sits. Now as you drop a foot in elevation, you actually gain 0.433 psi pressure. So what that means, when I want to water the garden, you know, the water from the tank goes through this filter, I open up a valve on my manifold valve, and then I have my garden hose. Well, because we drop about 20 feet, there's actually about 9 psi pressure in that garden hose. I think it's a little bit less. But that's really cool because this allows me to water the garden for free with somewhat decent water pressure as long as there's no drought. You know, when there's a drought, that tank runs dry, then I got to use well water. But for about 95% of the year, I water the garden for free with this system. You know, at some point, I probably should think about doing some type of engineered drip irrigation system. But to be honest with you, I really enjoy coming out here in the mornings with my hot cup of tea and watering the plants, see how everything's doing, pulling some weeds. Not always about getting things done fast. It's sometimes about enjoying life, and this is a part of life I really enjoy. So anyway, I'd like to thank you for watching, and as always, I will catch you on the next one.